Hello there, we're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA0992539. This is your home of fearless, credible and independent journalism. These stories this hour. Ghana features prominently in a Norwegian newspaper publication alleging the country purchased Sputnik vaccines from intermediaries who obtained the vaccines through dubious means and selling at a premium. We share details from the newspaper and hear from government as well as anti-corruption agencies. In Ghana outdoors, what authorities are calling a more tolerant and people-centered national security policy and strategy, which comes along with the new National Security Ministry building. We hear from President Akufo-Addo and Sector Minister Albert Kandapa on how these address the growing concerns about unprofessional behavior of operatives. This afternoon, we focus on security in the sub-region, also starting from Burkina Faso, where over 300 people have been killed between last month and now. 160 of them dug from mass graves this Saturday and 14 killed on Friday by suspected insurgents. We are live in Burkina Faso. And a wave of criticism lands on Nigerian authorities as the government there bans Twitter, a move described as authoritative. We're also live in Nigeria as we scrutinize the matter. The pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. We're streaming live on YouTube and on our social media handles. My name is Gifty Andopia. This is the pulse. Please be my guest. Let's take you to Parliament this afternoon, where the Deputy Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mekuduka, is being vetted right now.
Commissioned gold monitor machine. They locally call it gold catcher. Mr. Chairman, what that machine does is to collect or extract not less than 95% of gold. And Mr. Chairman, I had the opportunity of witnessing a simulation exercise they did, where indeed 95% of the gold was attracted or caught. Mr. Chairman, in that sense, if we use to support the small-scale mining sector, where people illegally rush around through concessions, get away, and just about 30, not more than 40% of gold is in a way gotten or attained, I believe it will go a long way in supporting these concessions where they can ably take their time mine, attract enough gold, and mine responsibly. So I commend the Minerals Commission for such an action, and I commend the Sector Minister, Honorable Samuel Abujenapo, for taking such an initiative. That is to support the community mining concept, where government will be doling out enough gold monitor machines like what Minerals Commission just commissioned to, in a way, augment what to fill the gaps that are in the system, and that will curb the menace of galamsey.
Right, thank you. My final question. On September 25th, that is 2015, countries, including Ghana, adopted a set of goals to facilitate growth, end poverty, and ensure prosperity for all, as prescribed by the Development Agenda. Each of the goals has a specific target to be achieved over the next 15 years. Honorable Deputy Minister, I just want to tease your views on the development goals. What in relation to your ministry, which of the goals relates to your ministry, and how far do you think the ministry have gone to achieve this by 2030, as stipulated? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you look at the goals, they are kind of intertwined, and they relate to all the sectors. And if we collaborate well with the various sectors, you wouldn't even, or there wouldn't be the need to specify as to which of the goals that are related to your sector, because it runs through education, it runs through finance, it runs through agriculture, it runs through water resources, and obviously comes to lands and natural resources. So it's about the living and sustainability of our lives, and obviously there must be that collaborative effort in washing and tying in all the goals.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Congratulations again, Honorable Nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
My first question has to do with land guards in Ghana. I understand perfectly that you are going to be a deputy minister who would be assisting the substantive minister. There are several reports suggesting that one of the biggest challenges for land acquisition in Ghana today, particularly in the urban centers, is the problem of land guards. And we've had some of them killing innocent and rightful owners. We have them intimidating landowners, particularly in the new communities developing. What are your views on land guards, and how can we as a people overcome this challenge? And what would you do as a deputy minister in support of the substantive minister to nip this at the back?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, land guards has been a bane. It has been a challenge to each and every Ghanaian. And I believe is on this premise that Parliament, the 7th Parliament, obviously, anxiously passed Act 1036 in 2020. And this act now criminalizes land guards. And I'm happy that that act has been, passed and has addressed that land guard issue. Mr. Chairman, you would also bear with me that obviously double sale of land has, in a way, brought up all this kind of land guard issue, and the act continuing criminalizing that aspect of menace is also a good call by criminalizing it in the Act 1036. So taking into consideration the Act, we need to enforce the laws that are enshrined in the Act, and going with that, I believe, with the support of my able minister, who has consciously making sure that even lands that are vested in government or in the states are divested as the law or the act enshrines. And that's also a good call. So I will support him graciously if you give me the mandate, support him to ensure that the act that was passed in the last parliament are really run through.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, the New Patriotic Party promised Ghanaians that it will fully decentralize Lands Commission and land services to the district level. Do you know the status of this promise? And what would you do to facilitate the achievement of this promise, even as a deputy minister, because of the various challenges people have in Ghana, just having services, land services, registering their lands. Sometimes you go to the Lands Commission to do official search, and it will take you more than 6 months before you get results, coupled with several other challenges. I believe that if we properly decentralize these services, it will be more effective, and many more Ghanaians will benefit more. What would you do to facilitate this promise?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Looking at the Land Use and Spatial Planning Regulations 2019, I believe if you run through, you realize that decentralizing our land is of much concern to this country. And I'm happy that the minister himself, Honorable Samuel Abidjanapo, has started so well. He was just with, he was in my region recently to visit the Lands Commission there. I joined him because I'm from Western region, and the leader there testified that it was the first time a minister, a substantive minister, was visiting the outfit. He indicated right at the ceremony that he was going to ensure that we decentralize, the land acquisition system, and that, in a way, he's anxiously embarking on. So he started, as you asked, he started on it. He's working on it, and he will ensure. And I will, with your support and your graciousness, I will assist him to carry on with that mandate that you suggested.
Honorable Chair, the very last question borders on Galamsey and the current policy direction of government banning excavators. Many have criticized this position of government on grounds that we still have a number of district assemblies who are in need of these excavators to just grade their roads or the silt. They are choked gutters. What is, I'm asking for your personal view on this issue of banning of excavators. And do you think that it is a sustainable policy to keep banning excavators when these excavators could be put to productive use?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I support the school of thought that says extraordinary situations call for extraordinary measures. Mr. Chairman, as I speak with you, if you go to Indonesia, where other countries have engulfed the area with illegal fishing, they've started sinking most of the fishing boats and burning them. If you go to the island state of Palu, they are burning all the fishing boats there. Mr. Chairman, they could have used this fishing boat for other purposes. Mr. Chairman, if we don't take care, there would be a day that you go out, come back to see someone. Now technology has developed. They can use even 3 days to put up a structure. They put a structure in front of your door and they tell you that it's a structure. There's no need pulling them down or putting some structures on a waterway. They tell you it's a structure. You can use it for clinics and other purposes. So we can put structures in a waterway, and those buildings need not to be pulled down. Mr. Chairman, looking at the destruction being meted to our river bodies, I believe, and caution upon caution that have been given by government, I believe these illegal miners must listen to government and stop mining in our river bodies, and rather stop complaining about the burning of excavators. I will, in a way, ensure that if an excavator is spotted in an illegal zone where the perpetrators leave out the keys to these excavators, obviously the military could drive them to the nearest police station. But there are situations the military will get there, they have removed parts of the excavators control board, and these excavators are very heavy. You cannot just in any way carry them or put them on a payloader without getting them sparked. So they just remove some parts and run away, think with a view of coming back at night to use such excavators. If you are protecting the interests of this country and the heritage of this country, I believe it will be prudent to get that machine demobilized.
Mr. Chairman, a quick follow-up on that. Your explanation makes a lot of sense, but the only reason why I disagree is the fact that if the people intend to come back at night to work, proper policing would require that they would mount surveillance and still try to arrest these people together with the keys or those motherboards. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is that we cannot fight illegality with illegality. The process we are adopting now is sine qua non to mob justice. Once you see somebody breaking a law, you can also break the law to deal with the person. And that is a bit more dangerous for our democracy. And so I believe that this is a policy, this banning might be reviewed by government. So if you ever get the chance and you get the opportunity, I think I'm urging you to urge government to review the banning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm also using this platform to urge all those who have interest in mining our river bodies to stop immediately. And that with the intention of fighting this illegality with bipartisan approach by the sector minister, and with the thinking of also reviewing, amending the Mining and Minerals Act. Probably we can consider factoring the burning issues in. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chairman.
Yes.
Just a follow-up question on extraordinary situations calling for extraordinary measures. Our Constitution makes provision for extraordinary situations. Under those situations, you declare a state of emergency. Are you sure the activities of these illegal miners really creates such an extraordinary situation? If it is, why don't you call a state of emergency under which you can now do the things that you are doing?
Mr. Chairman, it's a illegal mining and a situation where there will be the need for us to import water from neighboring countries like Cote d'Ivoire. Today I saw a video, a pipe-borne water that was so dirty. I was so sad. If we don't take care, we might create a bleak situation for the future where we may be importing water into this country. If that situation is rearing its face, ugly face, obviously it is something that we must be worried about. And I believe taking into cognizance and the aspect of extraordinary measures, I will place that one in the purview of extraordinary measures. But it hasn't gotten to where a state of emergency could be declared, Mr. Chairman.
So it's not an extraordinary situation?
Mr. Chairman, depending on how probably you value it, but I see it as an extraordinary situation where we get into a position where we may import water into this country. Water is life, and if we are going to lose our life out of these operations, obviously it's an extraordinary situation, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Honorable Obama.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, my brother.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable, your minister was with us about 3 months ago, and I specifically asked him this question on the ratification of over 300 timber utilization contracts that the EU is threatening Ghana if we don't ratify them, they wouldn't allow companies to export timber to the European Union. I'm sure you are aware of this pending issue with the European Union. And I want to find out from you whether you assist the minister in pushing through these pending contracts so that our brothers and sisters within that space wouldn't have to suffer any penalties or ban from the European Union.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if you take the Timber Resource Management and Legality Licensing Regulation 2017, most of the concerns that you are raising are well spelled. And as you rightly put, I will obviously support my minister to address these concerns. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, secondly, The nominee comes from one of the richest areas in the country, and it's not in doubt. You have all the manganese, you have the bauxite, you have the gold, and what have you. You have bonsa, Thai, and a lot of resources in your area. But there seems to be a lot of underdevelopment in that area. If you travel on the Agunam-Kwanta-Takwa Road, which Parliament approved a facility for last year, for that 88-kilometer stretch, I want you to tell us, as a committee and as a country, and to the good people of Wassa, what you are going to use your new offices to assist the area to unearth its potential, because it is the richest hub, one of the richest parts of the country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it seems the honorable member knows the terrain of my constituency very well. Yes, it is true that we have in gold fields, we have in Anglo Gold, we have in Ghana Manganese. They are all seated in my constituency. Yes, it is true that as I speak with you, the road network there is highly deplorable. Obviously, a facility has been raised, Parliament has approved, and the minister in charge of roads and highways has also assured me, and he has reassured me, that very soon contractor will be on site. The road network is our concern, and the people of Takwa will be happy to see a contractor on site, reconstructing Takoradi to Takwa and the tar roads of Takwa. Yes, His Excellency the President has personally indicated to me that he will make sure that the developmental agenda of Takwa is properly restructured in his tenure, and I believe, and counting on his prospect and vision, I know Takwa will be compared to Johannesburg going forward, and that is the hope of all of us, because the moment our road network is asphalted and worked on, Takwa will be a place to visit. If you just look at our landscape and other prospects, what is of our concern is our road network, and I'm happy that you outlined some of the challenges we are facing, but obviously, and that is why we need the JAPA, and that is why we need the Minerals Income Investment Fund, because all this while, as you've already testified, we've been mining over the years, more than 200 years. What do we have to show? So if now a facility, a royalty, is ring-fenced to develop the mining communities, I will obviously and seriously advocate for that facility.
Obviously, you want your roads to be like Asawasi. Good luck. But let me turn your attention to Article 267. 267, and 8 of the Constitution. Your roads will one day become like that of Asawasi. Don't worry. Honorable Muntaka, he wants Takwa roads to be like Asawasi roads.
He should manage to get it to be quiet first.
Honorable, Article 2677 and 8, I've seen Nananum behind you, that the administrator of stool lands and regional lands commissions shall consult with the stools and other traditional authorities in all matters relating to the administration and development of stool land, and shall make available to them all relevant information and data. Are we complying with this constitutional imperative? And if not, what are you going to assist them, especially with the information and data for them to be able to know what is happening within their traditional areas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
George Merkuduka, the Deputy Ministerial Nominee for the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry. Well, we'll be connecting with our correspondent, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, who is joining us live from the location right now. But before the Deputy Minister, Honorable Mekuduka, came on, the Deputy Minister designate for Energy, Andrew Ejapa Mensah, was there. He said that he disagreed with the former Energy Minister, Peter Amewu's description of the PDS ECG deal as fraudulent. Government terminated the deal in 2019 on claims the insurance covering the deal was acquired fraudulently. But Mr. Mensah says the minister got it wrong. He says he does not see fraud anywhere in the deal.
The corporate law principles are quite clear that a company is separate and distinct from its shareholders. And that indeed PDS, when it was incorporated, has its own directors and secretary. I took the pains to actually do an official search before appearing before your committee, and it's clear who the directors of PDS are and who the shareholders of PDS are. Nowhere is Andrew Ejapa Mensah found in these two categories. But like I said, it was interesting that because the documentation for the transaction had my name as director in one of the shareholders of PDS, then it became easy to associate me with PDS and create the impression as if to say I was connected some way, somehow to PDS. But the truth of the matter is that I'm not a director of PDS, nor am I a shareholder of PDS. Indeed, I'm not even a shareholder of the company that I incorporated for the client. So, question of interest in itself, Mr. Chairman, does not arise, has never arisen, because interest as opposed to fiduciary, which is what directors are, is quite clear. Interests are transferable. They are either real or incorporeal. They are either tangible or intangible. These are property. It's a legal construct that is transferable. My role as a director in TG Energy cannot, under any circumstances, be described as transferable to entail me having an interest in that transaction.
Andrew Ejapa Mensah, the Deputy Ministerial nominee for the Energy Ministry. Like you said, like you heard him say, he talks about his position with the PDS and, of course, whether or not there are interest there. Well, Joseph will be joining me shortly, but the minority in Parliament has raised concerns about some finances in the custody of PDS that ought to be transferred to the ECG, which has not been done. The Member of Parliament for Boko Central had issued that 200 million cedi amount, which is said the PDS has allegedly refused to send to the ECG after the deal was abrogated. Mr. Mensah says that PDS cannot have the money without the involvement of ECG because it sits in an escrow account. As you know, the PDS has sued government over the abrogation of the deal, and the Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak says that Mr. Mensah will struggle in his position because a company that he works for, which is TG Energy Solution, was one of the PDS consortium partners. But Mr. Mensah disagrees. Joseph Opoku Gakpo has been monitoring the vetting for us. He's joining me to give us some more. Hello, Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph, let's focus on what is happening right now, which is the vetting of George Mekuduka. We got in at a point where he was talking about burning of excavators and the fact that he supports it. He believed that it's time to legislate that action. What else has he been saying as far as the position he's defending himself for is concerned?
On that in particular, he makes the point that extraordinary situations require extraordinary measures. He's been citing instances of happenings in Indonesia where he says that some fishing vessels involved in illegal fishing are being sunk and burnt in Indonesia. He also cited a situation in a state in Ireland where he says people who are engaged in related illegal activities, the equipment that they use are being destroyed. So he insists that as far as he is concerned, there is nothing wrong with the burning of excavators, because even in some instances, those who have been using some of these excavators for illegal activity, remove the necessary tools that will make it possible to move them from the site. And then they come back in the night to then come use them for the same activities, which is how come he is actually very much in support of any such move. He's also been responding to questions having to do with his role as chairman of the Mineral Income Investment Fund. He had been in that role as chairman of the board of that particular fund up until the expiration of the last administration of the Akufo-Addo government. And he was asked a question about whether he would want to continue keeping his role as chairman of that particular board, even as he serves as Deputy Minister of the Land and Natural Resources Ministry. And he made the point to the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, that if the president wants him to continue serving in that position, he will continue to do that. And he doesn't see any case of conflict of interest, because that particular fund is under the Ministry of Finance and not necessarily his ministry as the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources. He's also been commenting generally on efforts being made to actually protect the country's forests. And he gave the statistics to show that the nation had more than 8 million hectares of forest as at the beginning of the 1900s, which have been depleted badly. And so he will be supporting his minister to ensure that there are more afforestation efforts and that more artificial forests are created to help protect the environment going forward.
Joseph, let's wrap up with what else is happening in Parliament today, apart from these vettings.
The Deputy Minister Designate for the Education Ministry, Reverend John Intimfojo, also appeared before the committee, apart from Andre Japamesa, who appeared a little earlier. And essentially, Reverend Intimfojo has been defending the free senior high school policy, and he's been dismissing claims that it's a case of sacrificing quality for quantity with the introduction of the free senior high school education. And he gave some statistics to indicate that with the WASI that was written by the students just a few months ago, when you look at the students who scored 8-1, Ghana recorded more than 88% of the total number of students who scored 8-1s. And for him, that's an indication that the free senior high school program is actually delivering quality output. Well, a little later in the day, we're expecting the vetting of Tina Mensah, who is Deputy Minister Designate, headed to the Ministry of Health. She has been in the position over the last 4 years and is returning to that particular position. The House itself is not sitting today. Mondays are usually off days unless they have something extraordinary they need to take care of, but they'll be returning to the plenary tomorrow, even as the appointment committee continues vetting more deputy ministerial nominees.
Joseph, thank you very much for that update there. Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent. Now, the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, CLOGSAG, has given government a 2-week ultimatum to rectify issues with its pension administration, or they will take action, including embarking on a strike. According to the Executive Secretary of CLOGSAG, Isaac Bampo-Addo, the Tier 2 pension contributions of some of its members have been diverted into a temporary scheme without their consent. CLOGSAG alleges also about 53 million Ghana cedis has been siphoned from their members' Tier 2 pension contributions instead of transferring it to the workers' desired pension manager, the Hedge Pensions Master Trust Occupational Pension Scheme. We can listen to him now.
Council, NEC, of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association, Ghana, CLOGSAG, having met at Cape Coast from the 3rd to the 5th of June 2021, noted the following: that in the civil service and the local government service, the staff have over the years endured relatively lower salary levels and other allowances, as well as other perquisites. The delay in response to the issues on conditions of service of civil service and the local government service, that pension administration in the public services is plagued with problems associated with the establishment of the field scheme known as Public Sector Workers Employers Pension Scheme, which is supposed to be temporary. That some diversion or unauthorized transfers of funds from contributions of CLOGSAG members were made into the accounts of the public sector public scheme, that's PS SWEPS. The cluster members in the Land Commission had their Tier 2 contributions diverted to the public sector scheme of no choice of theirs. CLOSAC sought to bring about a change in this sordid and pitiable plight of staff in the civil service and the local government service. Using the available legitimate means, the matter got the attention of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the President of the Republic of Ghana, in January 2020. His Excellency directed that the approved recommendations on the conditions of service by both the Civil Service Council and the Local Government Council should be expedited as far back as January 2020. To date, the association has not received any response on the approval of the recommendations. The delay and the deafening silence on the conditions of service of both services have created anxiety among our workers who are part of the central and local levels of governance. CLOSAC would not be demanding too much to warrant any further excuses. The change should come now. The administration of pensions in the public services is still plagued with issues relating to the temporary pension scheme known as the Public Services Workers and Employers Pension Scheme, PSWEPS, established by the Ministry of Finance in 2017, temporary for public institutions that had not identified with the 4 public sector schemes. Currently, our members at the Lands Commission had found their deductions redirected to PSWEPS without any reason or desire of the workers opting for such a change. To correct such a discrepancy, the workers have written to their management about their preference for the Hedge Master Trust Occupational Pension Scheme established by CLOSAC. All attempts to correct this anomalous situation have fallen on deaf ears. It is as if the PSWEPS has metamorphosed into a permanent scheme, shedding its temporary wings. By the Glyco report, it has been established that about 53 million Ghana cedis were siphoned and transferred to PSWEPS. PSWEPS ought to transfer this amount to the Health Pension Trust Occupational Pension Scheme. These details are with the MPRA, which commissioned investigations into the transfer of TPFA funds at the Bank of Ghana. Again, under spurious and unknown circumstances, 5 million Ghana cedis contributions of CLOSAC members under the Hedge Master Trust Occupational Schemes have been diverted into accounts of the PSWEPS. Efforts to retrieve this anomalous transfer has not yielded the desired results. It is important to note that pension funds cannot be used to defray any cost or expenditure, and for PSWEPS to receive such transfers and sit on it portrays another violation of the pension law.
And that is Isaac Bampo-Addo, the Executive Secretary of CLOCSA, threatening to go on strike. They actually issued an ultimatum, a 2-week ultimatum there. You're still watching The Pulse. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll tell you about Ghana's new national security policy. But we'll take you to Burkina Faso live, where about 300 people have died between last month and now. Latest 160 of them have been dug out of mass graves on Saturday. But before that, which was on Friday, 14 people were killed by suspected insurgent, and it has to do with border security, something that Ghana has been working on for some time now. All of these, when we come back, we'll talk about it. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, investigations by a Norwegian newspaper into the procurement of Sputnik V vaccines in Ghana has revealed irregularities leading the country to buy the doses at nearly double the approved price of $10. The story alleges that 2 middlemen, one a sheikh and a cousin of the ruler of Dubai, the other has been on the run from Norway for years on money laundering charges. We'll hear from the Citizens Movement Against Corruption on this, as well as the Health Ministry. Right now, though, there is Marcus Tobersin, who led the investigations by the VG newspaper. Marcus joins us right now via Zoom. Hello, Marcus. Hello, Marcus.
Hello. Are you able to hear me?
Hi, Marcus. Thank you very much for your time. Give us some insight into the investigation.
So our investigation mainly deals with how the Russian Sputnik vaccine has been sold through intermediaries in the United Arab Emirates to a number of countries, amongst other Ghana.
And what are some of the findings, apart from what you have in the newspaper? What it indicates, your findings in the newspaper show that these middlemen are selling the vaccines at almost double the price of $19 rather than $10. What else does it uncover as far as this process of the vaccine leaving Russia and making its way towards Ghana?
Well, we don't know the exact details of all the deals that have been made along the way, but what we see is that the Russians are selling vaccines through their monetary fund, the RDIF, the Russian Direct Investment Fund. And they have made deals with a company called Avrogulf in the United Arab Emirates. That company, again, has made the Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum an exclusive sales agent for a number of countries, amongst other Ghana. So that's what we can say about the route. And as you correctly said, the Russians are selling vaccines at about $10 per dose. We see that from public deals that have been made, where the contracts have been made public in the likes of Slovakia and Hungary. And on the deals we've seen that have gone through Overgulf and the Emirates, we see that the deals are made at prices of $19, $20, and $22.50 per dose.
In your investigation, did you reach out to Ghanaian authorities, and what information did they give you, if you did?
Yes, we've been speaking to a number of officials in Ghana. I was also on a 4-day trip to Ghana. And I think it is the finance minister, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta. He put it very.
Ken Ofori-Atta is the finance minister.
The finance minister, yes.
The health minister. So you spoke with the finance minister.
Yes, we were not able to get an interview with the health minister, but we were able to get an interview with the finance minister. Yes, that's correct. And Ken Ofori-Atta, he explained in terms of when he was asked about the pricing and asked whether or not he considered it a reasonable deal, he basically, or I'll quote verbatim what he said. He said, "I don't know. You know, you are confronted with the good guys from the West not giving you any assurance of supply, and you have 30 million people of which you have to save the lives. You know, it's easy to sit somewhere and say, why are you doing this? But you need to make sure you protect your people and you manage as well as you can." And he went on to say that basically this is all a contrived and manufactured crisis. to get the supply, because clearly there is enough to go around if there was an equity and a justice in what we were doing. That was the end of his quote.
And apart from him, which other investigations did you do in Ghana to back the role of this intermediary if you found that necessary?
Yeah, so I think one of the important things was just to establish the meeting that happened there on the 3rd of March, when the first shipment of some 16,000 doses were brought up. So that was mentioned in press briefings by the Information Ministry in Ghana, but we were able to secure pictures from the event itself that shows both the Sheikh Ahmed Al Maktoum there at the airport, but also, as you might have mentioned earlier on, Umar Farouk Sahor, which is wanted for charges of fraud here in Norway. But then
go ahead.
No, if you were asking about other sources we spoke to, we of course spoke with Dr. Kwame Ponsagiano, who heads the inoculation program of Ghana, and a number of other NGOs, reporters, and other people who were able to help us with collecting information to confirm the reality of the deal.
And did you, by the way, get any information from this intermediary? Did they get the chance to respond to some of these concerns?
The Sheikh himself has not replied, but we did an interview with Umar Farouk Sahor. I could read one of his quotes if you would like to hear what he had to say about it.
Yes, go ahead.
He said that he personally had not made any profit from this, and he said, if I've made money from it, then I've made money from a good deal. There's nothing wrong with that. And he said, we are subject to non-disclosure agreement with the authorities when we buy and sell. So we have no interest in discussing details regarding what types of agreement and what types of prices and what types of expenses are involved. So he would not divulge any details, though acknowledging the deal. But he did also later on the conversation go on to say that he has not personally made, like Umar Farouk Sahor, he says he had not personally made any profit from this deal, and that he was not personally signed on the deal like he did back when the Ameri energy deal was made back in 2015. I'm not sure if you refer to that in the program here, but of course the Sheikh and Umar Farouk has previously made news in Ghana.
So yes, your report in the newspaper shows that this same individual, was also involved in the Ameri transaction.
That is correct.
And apart from him, there's another person who your report says is wanted by authorities in Norway. Give us a bit more information on this person.
Well, I would correct you there in saying that he is charged, but he's out on bail, so he is not wanted in that sense. But that is the businessman Per Morten Hansen. That's correct. And I would also clarify there that, as we write in our newspaper, there is an audio recording in which he assigns a role to himself. A recording that was made previously to the deal being made public. Per Morten Hansen, the businessman, has later first denied ever saying such a thing. And when he was confronted with the audio tape, he has later stated that he has no involvement in vaccine sales anywhere in the world. So he is disavowing his previous statements.
Hang on for me, Marcus, if you may, if you do have the time. I just want to engage Kofi Too. He's a representative of the anti-graft agency here in Ghana, the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Kofi, thank you very much for your time. I've just been engaging the Norwegian journalist who worked on this report. That's indicating that Ghana has bought the COVID-19 vaccines from Russia at an overpriced, cost. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to bring our thoughts on this subject matter. And originally, we would want to take it from the point of view of the sales price from the producers. If you trace on the production line, the producers in Moscow to give a cap of $10 for this vaccine. But how is the availability in the market, and that is what is bringing about all these challenges. Because first, most countries are going through a means of COVAX to help them get these vaccines, and the various sub-regional bodies such as AU and EU were also much involved. The third means of having access to these vaccines were through individuals and also other business entities, as we are finding here. And that is the easiest way to really have a kind of negative or bad deal against various countries, because you will get to know that in the case of Ghana, we are buying it at double of the original price, which is against these developing countries that are already struggling. And unfortunately, it has been the case around the world. Some countries that are well-to-do are buying multiple of the needed vaccines. So it has created shortage for most developing countries not to be able to have access. Then the second aspect that we want to look at this from as well is from the fact that as a country, this is an international agreement. But then it's interesting to note that Parliament is not even has not discussed it and is not aware. If for nothing at all, the Select Committee should have a preview to some of these dealings. But then, unfortunately, they also do not have access to this.
Do we know that? Do we know that for sure?
Yes, because the ranking member, I was privy to one interview granted by the ranking member, and then he stated this.
Okay.
Then another aspect as well, the Coalition of Health Organizations. If you listen to some of their interactions recently, they are normally brought on board when some of these vaccines are being procured. Even other issues of procurement of malaria vaccines and even vaccines for HIV and all those diseases, we are able to engage them to also bring their ideas on board in order to help us procure at a reasonable prices across the world. But in this case, we are not being engaged. We understand that these are critical times, but then in as much as we are in critical times, we should also know that these countries already are cash-strapped as a result of many of the interventions that we have done. So it is good that we do due diligence on businesses that are being engaged. Because, mind you, if you look critically at the individuals that are being engaged now, these are people that are already in the news in most of these countries, especially Norway and the European countries that are known to have questionable issues. So at least from the angle of the Ministry of Health, we believe that it was something that at first-hand, they could have some of this information or profile some of these people to have some of this simple information, that they don't engage such individuals in dealings of this nature.
The Norwegian reporter that I'm just speaking to, who did the investigation, has indicated that the response he got from this middleman indicates that the guy said he's doing business. So yes, the vaccine there's a shortage of the vaccine. It's scarce. But if you find it and you're doing business with it, is there anything wrong with that?
No, for business, a businessman will always go for the highest profit in this case. But then what even raised eyebrow from the beginning, if you listen to him clearly, you would realize that they were not trying to open up even to questioning if really you have nothing to hide in this business that you are engaging in with another person, and you are being questioned on it. If everything is transparent, you should be willing to come forward and to be straightforward with your answers. But this is a case that you are not being. And we are saying that, well, already as a country, developing country, we are already faced with issues of finances, and we are cash-strapped in these challenging times as a result of some expenses that we've incurred as a country during the deeper times of or the severest times of the COVID. Right. So if we would have to buy these vaccines double of the price, and we should be highly concerned, because it's the money of the country that is going to be doled out in order to make this payment.
Okay. And just hang on. Marcus, let me wrap up with you. First of all, I just wanted to find out, in this investigation, what is the Norwegian interest? Is there any? at all. Why? What necessitated this investigation in the first place? I think you're muted. Okay, I hear you now.
Yeah, did you mean to ask why we found an interest in this story?
Yeah, what necessitated the investigation?
Yeah, sorry, when you say necessitated, you mean what started the investigation?
Yes.
Yes. So the basis of it is that we've been following this, or my colleague, Rolf, who also wrote the story, he's been following Omar Farouk Sahor for a number of years, back to 2010 when this fraud case in the bank in Norway happened, where he was, which is he's still wanted for. So we were basically alerted to, there was an article in Ghana from an anonymous writer saying that Omar Farouk Sahor was again involved in a vaccine deal in Ghana. And so we weren't able to find any we couldn't base our reporting on that article because it was based on an anonymous writer. But that's what started it for us, basically trying to verify some of the claims that were put forth there.
Okay. As a reporter, are you were you satisfied, or to what extent were you satisfied with the responses that you got from the people involved, especially from Ghanaian authorities?
I would say that I think the finance ministry gave us some clear answers and also were very open in explaining their rationale. But we still have a lot of unanswered questions. It was mentioned just now, as you said, there are some questions about whether or not this was an international deal and should have gone through Parliament. We don't know whether or not it actually happened through a local subsidiary in the end of the chain, which might have made it possible to go around those rules. But it is correct, like the man before me said, that the Health Committee has confirmed to us that this did not go through Parliament. So I imagine we will keep reporting on this and that we still have a lot of questions we would like answered related to the deal.
Okay, that's interesting, because that was what my next question was going to be, whether or not this is the end of the road for the story. But you've indicated that you keep pushing it now that you're hearing that even the Parliamentary Committee on Health is not aware about this transaction, as Kofi says. But then going forward, what are your personal expectations finally on how, authorities in which of the countries that you've mentioned take this matter? What do you expect to see?
Well, I think there are, at least for Ghana's case, there are two very interesting questions. One is, when will these Sputnik vaccines arrive? Because from what we've been hearing, and I had an update that lasted just last week, that there are still the 300,000 doses that have been paid for have not been received. At least that was the last information I've been getting. Even though the president made a speech on the 1st of May saying that Ghana was expecting these vaccines by the 15th of May. So there is some delay that still hasn't been explained. I also spoke with the special advisor to the president on health, NCR Sara, while I was in Ghana, and he then explained that they were expecting them a week later, between the 15th and what would be the 21st. But they don't seem to have arrived at that point either. So that's one question. The other one is, sorry, I lost my thread, related to, there was a decline in how many vaccines are actually ordered. So when the deal was announced in early April, the health ministry said that they would order more than 3 million doses, while the finance ministry now says that they have paid for 300 doses and have an option on another million. But that's a sizable reduction from what was first announced. Why this is, we don't know yet. So that's one of the other questions we are looking for answers to.
That's a lot of information to work with and a lot of work to do as well. Marcus, thank you so much for your time. Let me take your final thoughts, Kofi, before we call this a wrap finally. What are your own expectations? The reporter or the investigator, the reporter who investigated the matter has listed a few what he called unanswered questions that ought to be pursued. For you as a Ghanaian, Kofi, and working with an anti-graft agency, what are your expectations going forward with this story?
Yes, so what I would say is we appreciate the fact that, the government is committed to vaccinating about 20 million Ghanaians by October. But then normally in this kind of desperate attempts, these are the business deals that normally have questionable issues. So we will urge first the select committee to have a keen interest in this kind of engagement, international engagement and business transactions. And two, state organizations such as IOCO and the Special Prosecutor's Office as well should have keen interest in issues of this nature to make sure that we have a clean deal as a country. And other interested CSOs, media houses, we believe as well can also contribute to make sure that we don't become like the other developing countries that are being shortchanged in this challenge of getting access to the vaccine. Yes.
Kofi, thank you so much. Marcus, thank you as well. Let me just say, though, that the Health Ministry says it is looking into the matter and will respond to the allegations later. I spoke to Marcus Tobiasen, who is an investigator with VJ newspaper, a Norwegian-based newspaper. They have done this investigation. Marcus, thank you very much for your time once again. And I also have Kofi Tuo, who is a representative of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. They're speaking to us. We'll keep our eyes on this story. After 64 years of independence, Ghana now has a national security policy and strategy fashioned to govern its programs and activities when it comes to national security. Among others, the document underlines the unique characteristics of the threats facing the country and offers what it describes as innovative ways to confront them. The document also advocates effective use of resources to promote effective decision. The national security is currently at the front burner as concerns grow over its handling of matters relating to the rights of individuals. At a ceremony to outdoor the new office complex for the National Security Ministry and launch of the document, President Akufo-Addo moved for a more tolerant, people-centered approach as it starts a new phase. Presidential correspondent Elton Robbie was there for JoyNews.
I want to stress that although Ghana continues to be heralded as a beacon of peace in Africa, we must not rest on our oars. Evidently, the threats that confronted us as a country decades ago have evolved faster and with greater intensity than anticipated. And this, Your Excellency, underscores the need for the swift implementation of the national security strategy to decisively mitigate new and emerging threats. And may I assure all Ghanaians that we pledge to respect the rule of law, fundamental human rights, and freedoms of all Ghanaians as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. But let me also caution that the respect for human rights cannot, must not be compromised with strategic threats to national security. And let us all agree that without a secure, without a safe environment in the country, we cannot pursue development, and for that matter, government may not be able to improve the living conditions of our people. There must therefore be a balance of issues of national security and the respect of human rights. Your Excellency, due to the personal commitment that you devoted to the development of this document and the desire to see to its full implementation, we found it most expedient for you to be present today to outdoor this all-important document.
Albert Kandaba is Minister for National Security. We can hear President Akufo-Addo, who was also there as well.
4 years ago, at the end of the year party organized here at the Ministry of National Security, I had the privilege of interacting with staff of the ministry who work so hard to keep our nation and its territorial integrity safe. I recall on that occasion, I tasked the hard-working Sector Minister, Albert Kandaba, together with his staff, to do everything humanly possible to improve Ghana's security architecture so as to protect Ghanaians and make Ghana resilient to existing and potential threats. Since then, a lot of positive transformation has taken place. Indeed, between now and then, the ministry has overseen the restructuring of the ministry into the operations and administrative divisions, developed the national framework for preventing and countering violent extremism and terrorism, and established an analysis unit and the National Counterterrorism Fusion Center, which have been critical in mitigating recent and emerging security threats. The ministry also led the processes that culminated in the promulgation of the new Security and Intelligence Act, Act 1030, and the National Signals Bureau Act, Act 1040, aimed at reforming and modernizing the security architecture of the country. Indeed, the reason for today's gathering, that is the commissioning of the new office complex for the Ministry of National Security, the unveiling of the ministry's new logo, as well as the launch of the National Security Strategy, attest further to the tremendous amount of work that has been done over the past 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, a prerequisite for the sustainable development of a nation is a secure environment that guarantees the safety of its people and the preservation of its territorial integrity. It is only when these things are assured that citizens can live peacefully and strive to improve constantly the quality of their lives. The existence, therefore, of an overarching strategy capable of guiding the nation in realizing these goals is crucial. Unfortunately, since our nation was founded 64 years ago, Ghana has never had a security strategy that defines the country's approach to preserving its peace, security, and stability, and the plans it has to confront current and future threats. To achieve this, it is imperative that a potent national security strategy, which would serve as the pivot around which Ghana's national security would revolve, is produced.
President Akufo-Addo there, and subsequently we'll be going into the national security policy and the strategy to explain what is in there, how it works, so we all can update ourselves. But in the meantime, the National Commission for Civic Education, NCCE, has embarked on a project seeking to deal with violent extremism and terrorism. Mauli Agbenu is Deputy Director for Research at the NCCE. He's joining us via Zoom so we can understand what this work is all about, what has it found, and how does it help make us safer than we are. Mauli, thank you very much for your time. Good afternoon. So give us a background to this research.
Okay. So good afternoon to you all and to your viewers. So we hear of a lot of violence in the sub-region these days, especially Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, in fact, in the Sahel region. And there's a lot of violence going on in terms of extremist acts, jihadis carrying out activities. Just yesterday, we know that 160 people were killed in northern Burkina Faso by these extremists, though we don't know those who are responsible for it. The trend has been that over the years, they have been trickling down, moving down the Sahel and coming down towards Ghana. Therefore, I think it was time that the NCC did something about it. And just last year, we carried out research on matters of concern to the Ghanaian voter. As part of the findings, it came out that there's a rising trend of violence in Ghana in terms of vigilantism, armed robbery, chieftaincy disputes, and all that. And so we had an idea that it is possible that these extremists could spill over, the activities could spill over from the borders and get into Ghana and then disrupt our activities here. And so, as part of the national framework for preventing violent extremism and terrorism in Ghana, which was designed or developed by the National Security Ministry, the NCC is to carry out research and identify areas where there are violence, so that we can carry out education on that to prevent violent extremism in Ghana.
Okay, I'm seeing
I'm
seeing from a document you have here that the work has already been done, in that you had looked at 1,174 respondents, and then you had 1,173 who willingly participated. What are the findings from this particular research?
Well, we targeted, actually the research was carried out in the 10 border regions of Ghana. We spoke with ordinary citizens, and then we also spoke with key informants. Some qualitative interview was carried out. For the findings, my dear sister, tomorrow when you come for the lunch, you are going to get all that.
I see. So what information can we have there after the findings? You say that this was orchestrated by the National Security Ministry. What next after the findings are shared?
Well, so the research was actually carried out to get micro-level information to inform NCC's public education programs, to get the citizens prepared for, in case anything should happen like that, they should know how they should react to it, so that citizens will be aware. We wanted to identify the knowledge gap within the population, and then to identify the vulnerabilities, so that the NCC can then tailor its public education strategies towards identifying and addressing the issues.
Maoli, thank you very much. We look forward to the findings from the research tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Maoli Agbenu is the Deputy Director for Research, National Commission for Civic Education. Now, the withdrawal of service by the Federation of University Senior Staff Association at the University of Cape Coast is already biting hard, as pregnant women and other patients who want to access the university's hospital have been left frustrated. Over 6,000 members of the association in 10 public universities laid down their tools on May 19 in protest of poor working conditions and failure of government to pay accrued pensions. But despite government's assurance of further negotiations during the meeting, the association insists it will not call off the industrial action. Richard Kojo Nyako went round the University of Cape Coast campus and reports that apart from the hospital, most of the classrooms at the university basic schools are without teachers, and students have taken over the teaching of their peers.
A pregnant woman coming to the hospital to be attended to by the midwife, and then no one is attending to you. You have no one to complain to. Maybe we are not feeling okay. We have certain problems, because as a pregnant woman, there you know that sometimes there will be complications. Even if there is none, you have to come so that you see that your baby is healthy or not. But here we are. I came here around 5. Then nothing is showing. I'm still sitting here. No one wants to attend to me. It's very bad. So if they will do something about it, they should do it immediately, because midwives going on strike is a disaster.
I came here somewhere last week just to start my antenatal, and when I came, I was told to sit down and wait. Now there's time for them to attend to us, and they are telling us that the antenatal books are finished because they have to go and take it from stores, and the stores people are also on strike. So because of that, no one can take care of her. Even the junior staff people cannot take care of her because there is no book for them to take the records inside. So we are just sitting here hoping that someone can come here to help us. It's very difficult. Some of us have to go to work too, and we've left work coming to take care of ourselves here, and only to be told because they are on strike, nothing can be done to us. And the government should really come in and help us. It's really affecting some of us. It's really affecting us.
Well, gradually it's getting, Richard Kojo filed that report, by the way, and gradually it's getting close to the 2020 population and housing census. As we know, the census night is 27th of June. But there are, what are preparations towards this? And what is being done by the statistics agency to work on this? Let's have a quick conversation on this. I do have Professor Kobna Enim, who's just joined us via Zoom. Hi, Prof. Thank you for your time. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on your show.
Right, so we have, barely 20 days, if my calculation is right, to the night of the census. Run us through what your preparations have been so far.
Thank you very much. We're currently in training. Today is the 7th of the 11 days training that we are engaging our field officers. We're going to end off the training on Friday, the 11th of June 2021, and we're going to go into the field starting from the 13th of June 2021 with a listing of structures. Preceding the enumeration exercise is the need for us to chalk and list all structures at different levels of completion, and that is one of the interventions that put in place to ensure that no one is left behind. So as you rightly indicated, we are 20 days away from the census night, which would occur on 27th June 2021. Essentially, this would be the reference for all the counting that we're going to do, and also reference for all the questions that we're going to pose during the enumeration period, which will run from 28th of June to the 11th of July. So we are raising consciousness on the 27th of June 2021, so that once the enumerators visit the residences and we are providing the responses, we're going to ask who and who slept in the household, who and who were in the institution, and as I indicated, all the other questions would also make reference to 27 June 2021.
So on the 7th of June, this year, what should a typical Ghanaian home expect? What's going to happen on that night?
We're going to have series of engagements. As I said, we don't expect households to do things differently. We don't expect persons to do things differently. All that we are saying is that let's keep that date in mind, so that once we come in and we are asking questions on persons who slept in the house on the 9th of 27 June 2021, it would be a challenge recalling what really that day was. So this is going to be a Sunday, and in that evening we're going to have events such as the blowing of sirens. We're going to have floats around the country. We're going to have instances where we're going to use technology with our telephones for us to have a color back tone that makes reference to the census. We're going to use social media. We're going to make some public announcements, which will be done by some regional ministers and also some statesmen across the country. So we're going to have diverse events. All that the reason why we're doing all this is to raise that consciousness for people to make reference or to remember activities that would happen in their respective households on the 27th June 2021.
20 more days. I'm sure that as we go along, if there's any more updates you need to give Ghanaians, we'll cross over to you to get that for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Professor Kobina Enim, the government statistician. On the 27th, which is a Sunday night, you should expect the census to begin. Now, there is growing tension in the mining town of Bibiani as jobless youth in the area demand release of concession of Mensin gold mines for community mining. The local miners who besieged part of the company's prized concession have pulled out, but there are risks of conflict if the youth do not get work to do. The chief of Bibiani Old Town, Nana Kwano III, says the peace of the area rests on access to community mining for the youth. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko has more.
This is Kusie Mountain, also known as Elizabeth Hill, a place within the concession of Mensin Bibiani gold mines. 2 weeks ago, the youth of Bibiani took over this area to mine.
So the miners have dug pits like this, many of them across this hill. And so they descend gradually to the belly of the earth and start digging, and they bring the items up as and when they go.
After our initial report, the place is now deserted. The miners have pulled out. But all is not well. There is simmering tension amongst the youth. They say the local economy has been hardest hit by the lull in operation of the Mensin gold mines.
ya na etwa school fees ya na etwa water bill ya na etwa light bill ebibia nti ya sere wo mo pe papa ma mema no mfa nidi na yenso ya ma na ye wonto ye na kro ma wota ye bre ekura ye tim ye bre omo ma ye mema no so bre nti ya sere ma ntefo no pe papa ma mema na bia ndo mo na nye omo pe papa ma omo no mfa nye adwuma
baby ye gina ye adwuma ye nti omo de koda empanyimfo se ye age omo asase aboso no ye frɛ okusia amena so. At
a press conference, leader of the small-scale miners, Ananga Barnabas, said Bibiani risks going into years of conflict with mining companies if the teeming jobless youth are not given areas to mine.
And then yen sorry still na yesi epe baby adidi and mo sa de soja for ba betata ye no enti se ye ni wono mo a mo gidi se ye man so omo sorry a omo meto aso ana se nke me ne mo a enka de betimi aya ne se ye nyina ye nka ya adwene mpam ho ni ye mpe baabi emma baabi ni mrante anya adwuma kopem se mo start adwuma ne kora na mo ntimi mfa mrante okuroma nyina ye dooso ye ne nam nipa be 10,000.
Mensin Bibiani mines have been out of operation for some time and the local economy is suffering. Many of the farming lands fall within restricted concessions of the company. The chief of Bibiani Old Town, Nana Kwano III, says it's in the interest of the company and the sustenance of peace that the locals are allowed to mine.
Omunya nhyase no yana se ye ko hyehia ho traditional council meeting ama ye hu se nanka adwuma ne ba be hyase ani but yet no msa asan atweko bio nti ye pomo chew se omunya nhyase adwuma se a asase ni msa aban de amom no se de bi omo ka no omo de a nanso omo adoma omo mamrante no ntena ho enidi kakra na breso Conflict
surrounding mineral extraction is not new to the Bibiani Old Town. A 1990 disagreement over possession of a concession led to a conflict between then Granco Mining Limited and the youth. 10 years later, similar confrontations claimed the life of a local miner at a time when AGC controlled the Bibiani mine. Reporting for JoyNews, Erastus Asaredonko, Bibiani.
And still on mining, 4 Chinese nationals have been convicted by a Kumasi High Court for their involvement in an illegal mining activity on 40 acres of Obuasi-based Seidu Fanzia school. The plaintiff sought compensation and other release from court. However, Wen Shi Wan Shenjun, Li Dihao and Lahai Song are to be deported for illegal stay and using fraudulent means to validate their stay and working without permit. Ohim Interior of our security desk has more.
The Chinese nationals and a Ghanaian collaborator, Asamoah Kati, were arrested after a Kumasi High Court, presided by His Lordship, Justice Emmanuel Senyo Amedahe, granted an absconding warrant. They were arrested whilst mining gold under the protection of armed guards on land earmarked for a school. The convicts, who could not meet the bail condition of 200,000 Ghana cedis each, with 2 sureties, were ordered by the court to deposit their passports and work permits for fear of absconding before the final determination of the case. They have since remained in prison custody since April 19, 2021, until Thursday when the court ordered their deportation. The court gathered 3 of the convicts had presented through their lawyer passport retention slips dated February and March. The court also heard 3 of the convicts applied for renewal of permits on May 4, 2021. But the court held that was impossible since they were in prison custody. Presiding Judge, His Lordship Justice Amedahe, faulted officials at the Kumasi office of the Ghana Immigration Service for deliberately accepting applications of the convicts against their mandates. Such applications, according to the court, are only done at the national headquarters. He appealed to Interior Minister to reconsider the use of discretion by immigration officers to issue resident permits to foreigners who arrive in the country on sister-day visas. Among reliefs sought by the plaintiffs were a declaration that the defendants' mining activities were illegal, damages for trespassing, and loss of the use of the land. They also sought special damages for destruction of foundation structures of development projects at a cost of 500,000 Ghana cedis. Lawyer for plaintiffs Hans Kojokodia tells Joy News his clients expected more from the court.
Lands belonging to my clients at airport residential area, and those lands were earmarked for industrial and commercial developments. All these pieces of land have been destroyed. So we're asking the court to give us some amount of money representing the value of the land that they had destroyed, and also asking for compensation. But as the court indicated, the interest of the state is paramount and is superior to that of an individual. Therefore, once they were not legally in the country, our interest against them will not be considered, above that of the country. So virtually we are getting nothing. But if it is the interest of the country, then once they are deported, everything comes to a halt. We've gotten nothing out of it. It's a disappointment though, but they say it is the interest of the state.
Counsel for the Chinese nationals, Benjamin Ando, is also not satisfied with the ruling. He says he will confer with his clients for the next line of action.
We are so dissatisfied with the ruling, but that is the ruling of the court. In fact, we are bound by it. For now, I'll have to talk to my clients, take further instructions from them so that we know the next step to take.
As the convicts were being sent back to the Kumasi Central prisons, the Ghanaian mistress of one of the Chinese appeared at the premises with 3 children, including a 4-day-old baby. 27-year-old Rebecca Oforiwa, who has been married to Lan Hanson since 2018, wailed as she pleaded for leniency for her husband. She told Joy News deporting her husband could spell doom for her and the case.
Papa nipa wa hwa me ni mabusuan nyina ona hwa mesa so ma wa na ni 4 days akura ifrument misra Ghana for why papa onye nipa boni ni mama ne kwa me ne me ya be den Ghana for me so mo ka bi mami o mini mame me umi papa so de
The accused persons were found guilty of violating sections 23(1) and 35(1)(d) of the Immigration Act 2000, Act 573. From Kumasi for Joy News, Ohimintiria reporting.
Ohimintiria filed that report. Before we go into sports, let's take a look, bring you an update of what's happening in neighboring Burkina Faso. There were reports that armed men have killed at least 160 people in an attack on a village in the northern part of the country. Now, officials say it is the country's worst attack in recent years. Homes and the local market were burned during the raid on Solhan in the early hours of Saturday morning. And as you know, that makes about 300 of people who have been killed between last month and now. We're able to have update from a Burkina Faso journalist, but it looks like he's having some difficulties on the other side. We'll keep our eyes on this and update you subsequently. Also, we'll bring you some update on what is happening in Nigeria's ban on Twitter. Well, Twitter declared a free and open internet to be an essential human right in modern society Saturday morning after the Nigerian government banned access to the social media giant following a dispute with its president. Even as critics say it suppresses conservative content and bans its own users. Twitter deleted a fiery tweet from President Muhammadu Buhari that many perceived as a veiled threat against violent separatists in the nation's southeast. Then his government information wing responded by banning the social media platform from the country. As you know, this has attracted several reactions, including the embassies and high commissions of other countries in Nigeria. Also, a quick update from what's happening in Nigeria. The TB Joshua's death. The wife of TB Joshua, founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, SCOAN, has spoken about how she is dealing with the loss of her husband, TB Joshua. Evelyn Joshua took to her Twitter handle to mourn her late husband, saying that losing a loved one is never easy, whether sudden or foreseen. She continues to say that it's always heartbreaking. So that's by way of update of what's happening in Nigeria, in Burkina Faso as well. Gary. And this is where we say bye-bye to you, but we leave you with Let's Talk Showbiz. Dorina View has that on standby. Our top stories on myjoyonline.com are also available for your reading. University of Ghana sued for alleged irregularities in search for new vice-chancellor. Obviously, a very big wind blowing there. University's bill will improve standards in tertiary institutions, and Tim Forger, deputy ministerial nominee for education there. Only Almighty can lessen our heartbreak that TB Joshua's wife, who is mourning her husband. More stories at myjoyonline.com. Click on it, you get the handles to share it with your contacts so they know what's going on. My name is Gifty Andopia. Let's Talk Showbiz is how we wrap it all up. I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.